It was another quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages, nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation for the remainder of this hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. We do have a text line that is up and running at 617-297-8388. You text it like you and anyone else. It appears on the screen here in real time. We try to incorporate it into the conversation. And also, you know, we do stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app like thousands of other radio stations do. So you can take us anywhere, which is a great thing. Speaking of that, you can always tell Alexa, hey, play WCRN. She'll do that. No questions asked. I do stream my show on my social media platforms, which you can follow me at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show, Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and we do stream live to Rumble. And you can always watch either live or on demand at Torch TV, a new streaming channel. You can check that out. Combined with AUN TV Network, too. Hey, and tomorrow we'll be dropping this week's version, or edition, I should say, of the weekly report from the Frontiers of Freedom Institute. You can hear the audio on Saturday and Sunday here on AM 830 WCRN. Go to ff.org or Torch TV or theweeklyreport.online if you want to watch it on the Rumble channel. Again, 508-871-7000 to get into the studio. Today, behind the glass, flying the board, he'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. So as usual, there's always so much to try to talk about in an hour here, but it is jam-packed show today, a lot happening in the country. And I'm going to say right now, if you believe in the Constitution, if you believe in law and order, and if you still believe in good old common sense, the next hour is for you. So buckle up here, guys. I want to start with this ICE arrest, not at Tufts University, but a Tufts University student living in Somerville off-campus apartment. Now, I don't know about you, but I was always under the impression, correctly, I assume, that when you come to this country on a visa, that visa comes with some conditions, both on the application side of it, and then maintaining a certain decorum and behavior when you're here under that visa. And it seems to be escaping a lot of people in that. One of them is you don't engage in activities supporting terrorist organizations like Hamas. That's not controversial. That's basic national security and common sense, if you ask me. But now we've got a Tufts grad student, Rumesi Öztürk, a Turkish national. She was picked up by ICE, and the left is screaming bloody murder about this because she was detained. How dare we enforce immigration laws? Seriously. Massachusetts Attorney General Campbell, who, let's be honest, never misses an opportunity to pander to the radical left, called it disturbing. You're supposed to be the top law enforcement official in Massachusetts, lady. What's disturbing is having foreign nationals on U.S. soil supporting Hamas and expecting zero consequences. Rubio said this and it was offhand. It wasn't a prepared statement, but, you know, a reporter threw something at him. And he really summed it up and he answered it. And he said, you know, if you were applying for a visa, which isn't a right, it's a privilege. If you were applying for a visa to come to this country and you said that I support terrorist organizations, that I'm going to rile up people and spread propaganda and sympathize with those organizations that not only kill Americans, but call for the demise of the United States, we would deny that visa, or at least he said, I hope he would deny it. It doesn't mean that once you get it, you can do all those things. You're still here as a privilege. So listen, a visa isn't a right. It is a privilege. And if you break the rules, you don't get to stay, period. Now, it's not complicated, folks. If she were an American citizen, we'd be having a different conversation, but she's not. So she doesn't have those constitutional rights, and it's a different due process. ICE did their job. And let's be clear, and just as a side note, the Secretary of State has the authority to revoke these things, these visas, and they have a right. It's certainly within their purview and within the scope of the powers of the office that whoever it is that holds it, happens to be Marco Rubio, that they can revoke visas based on this kind of thing. So if the Trump administration were still in charge, should already, I don't know why I said it that way. The Trump administration has her on the plane back to Turkey. Actually, she's in Louisiana, headed back to Turkey. So they put her in an ICE facility where the same place that Maluk is, right? Columbia kid. Now, I know that their lawyers, her lawyer, is saying, we don't know where. You can, there's a thing called, there's an ICE tracking application, by the way, folks. So if you go look at her and track her, she's in the Louisiana ICE detention center. Now, if this was the Biden administration, ICE wouldn't have moved on this. Now, there was this really early morning ICE operation and stuff this morning, and they actually they got the eastern head of MS-13, like number 3 or in the top 3 bosses of MS-13, right? They get this guy living in an upscale neighborhood in Virginia. And based on the press conferences and stuff I was watching this morning, it looks as though they've been tracking a long time, but they weren't really able to move in and grab this guy till the Trump administration came in. And all these agencies are now cooperating and working with each other, and they're not being told to do your job with your hands tied behind your back. So that was good. Now think about that, because you've seen the voting history of Virginia. So how are all those very left Democratic citizens of a upscale neighborhood in Virginia, which surfaces Washington basically, how are they failing to find out that that one of the top 3 leaders of MS-13, young guy, recruited very, very early in life, it's like 22 or something like that, very violent psychopath living in your neighborhood? So think about that. So I don't understand why we're getting this resistance from certain governors, mayors, city council people even, and of course DAs and AGs of the states. It's actually part of the oath you take when you get sworn in, by the way. So Biden's immigration policy basically summed up, let's do the opposite of what makes sense. And we've got the issue with the judges. We'll talk about that too. But let's talk about these tariffs that Trump announced. So this is one of those times where you really see the difference between American first policy and the globalist nonsense that we've been fed here for decades, because Trump announced a 25% tariff on all foreign-made cars. Naturally, the usual suspects, the EU, the left-wing economists, the corporate media, they're all losing their minds over it. Now, let me ask you something. Why is it that every time a president does something to help American workers, the left panics? Tariffs are bad? Really? Because I seem to recall that before NAFTA and all these disastrous trade deals, America was making cars, making steel, making just about everything. Now we've got foreign companies making our vehicles and parts, and we're just supposed to accept that. Well, they are, or we are, unfairly tariffed on our exports. Why is the concept of reciprocal types of tariffs so frightening or so bad? It's a revenue stream for those countries, but I think it's more than just revenue for some of them. I think it's actually to prevent their citizens from buying American products and buying their own products. Well, what's the matter with America doing the same thing? And when you combat that, or combine that, I should say, with Trump's policies and goals here to lower corporate tax rates if you're based in the United States, and the other pro anti-regulation and taxes that they're proposing, you will see businesses flood to the United States. You already have seen. If you add up the billions of dollars in companies that have now targeted the United States to build their factories, their headquarters, and employ people, we've reached $1 trillion. So Trump's got the right idea. If you want to sell your cars in America, build them in America. It's that simple. No tariff if you build here. And the government expects to pull about $100 billion from this move. That's $100 billion going into our country instead of padding the profits of foreign companies. Now, how is that a bad thing? Of course, the Biden administration, the left, and their media lapdogs will scream that this will raise prices, but they said the same thing when Trump put tariffs on steel and aluminum. That didn't happen. What did happen? More American jobs, more American production, more money staying in this country. Now, shift gears for a second here, because something every car owner needs to hear is we've got an EV disaster brewing, folks. Ford just announced that they're losing billions on electric vehicles. And now they're slashing production on models like the F-150 Lightning because guess what? Nobody wants them. And you know what happens when the government forces an industry to change before the market is ready? Well, you get exactly what we're seeing now. Billions of dollars in losses, stalled production, and higher prices for consumers. The left keeps pushing EVs like it's some kind of moral obligation. But here's a little reality check. Not everyone wants one. Not everyone can afford one. And the infrastructure to support them, it just isn't there. We don't have enough charging stations. The grid can't handle the load. And these batteries are an environmental nightmare and expensive as heck, man. Absolutely. So, but the government's response, instead of letting the market decide, they're pumping more taxpayer money into failing EV projects. Well, gas-powered cars, the ones that actually work, are being regulated into oblivion, but the Trump administration has been reversing those policies. We have to take our first break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. All right, folks, stick with us. We'll be back after the break. That's 2 minutes and 10 seconds before we're back.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own, but MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Hi, this is Phil George, the biochemist from Wellness Wave Radio. I don't recommend anyone that I don't do business with myself, so I'm glad that I found Doug at Meineke Car Center in Worcester. Since Meineke is a national company, the warranty will be honored by other Meineke shops nationwide. Just call 774-530-9009 or schedule an appointment online. Meineke, 661 Park Avenue, Worcester, keeping your wheels on the road.
Looking for a station that brings you all sides of the story? Tune in to 50,000 watt powerhouse WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. From politics and health to pop culture, you'll hear it all right here. Radio Central, where opinions from both sides come together for the conversations that matter. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830, WCRN, Radio Central.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment here of the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN. Reminding folks, you can always take us anywhere you go with the TuneIn app. Just load us up there. Do me a favor, hit the like button so we know you're there. And, of course, you can watch and listen to my show on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, as well as the station's Facebook page and YouTube channel. And the show is turned into a podcast. And you can go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts, Podbean, and subscribe. And it will load up every time it is done. All right, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Mark is waiting patiently through the break. Hey, Mark, what say you?
Well, I hope President Trump knows a good exterminator, because it looks to me like he has a mole problem within his administration. I'm talking about possibly one of his own department heads or one of the department heads' aides. But nevertheless, whoever it is, I think he's got a mole problem. I was hoping that he would get that problem rectified after what happened in his first term, but it seems that he hasn't, and he's got a mole infestation within his inner circle.
Yeah, well, I agree with that observation, Mark, because and I think that he did a lot. He did a lot not to make the mistakes of the first term, right? Because he brought in people that, weren't part of the swamp necessarily. And he counted on members of Congress and people who were already there to, suggest these things, everything right down to the U.S. attorneys, that he basically just took whatever senator from that state and went along with it. But I think that has changed. I agree with you that I think there's Ted. Did you want to say something? You jump in there?
Yeah, I want to remind everybody of an incident in I think it was 81, where the people of Israel gave the United States a plaque showing the logo of the President of the United States and insisted that it be put up in the Oval Office. They found several eavesdropping devices in that plaque.
There you go. There you go.
So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that Mr. Biden left behind a few dirty bugs.
And the when it comes to this whole signal thing, chat thing, they will find out, because Elon and his group of brainiac kids there are looking into the tech. Like I said this, I don't know, yesterday or the day before, everything electronic has a path to it, and everything is recorded in the movement. So they'll be able to.
Can I still make a comment?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll make a final of what I think about this. A, he's got moles within his inner sanctum.
I agree.
Any damn fool can see that, even me. Number two, how he's going to get them out of there, I don't know. Is anybody? But you're right about Elon Musk. He's going to backtrack all of this, and he's going to find out. Mm-hmm. He's going to make the connections. He's going to find out who the mole is.
Yeah, he will, because they, like I said, they'll be able to find it through the electronics of it, and everything has a record in the metadata. They'll be able to figure that. Mark, thank you for the call. Greatly appreciated it. So, yeah, look, somebody had to have added Goldberg to that signal conversation. I find it hard that Pete Hegseth or Cassie Tabbert or any of them did. They'll figure it out. But the key is, when they figure it out, they have to throw the book at the person. And just like Christy Nome has tracked down the leak that was letting media outlets and people know where those ICE raids were coming, they'll prosecute people who have done this stuff. And I think there was a story about the FBI agent who was leaking material. They got a hold of him. He's on his way to jail. So they've got to enforce again. These aren't new laws or policies. It's always been illegal to leak information and do traitorous things. It's just that previous administrations let it go. Right. And these are the administrations. Remember the poor sailor that's so proud that he's in the Navy. He takes a selfie to send it home to his parents because he's on a nuclear submarine. But the equipment behind him was classified. It was the picture, the interior of an American nuclear sub in the Navy, that the Navy wasn't thrilled that this picture was taken. That poor sailor ended up in the brig. Now, there was no malice or intention, but while that sailor goes to prison, Joe Biden removing classified documents to the tune of almost 1,800 pieces of information from the skiff while he was a senator gets a gloss over, mainly because I think it was, right? Her basically said, can't get a jury. The guy isn't there enough to prosecute the guy. And what do they do to Trump? So think about that. 508-871-7000. Let's go to Tyler, who's been waiting patiently. Tyler, what say you, man?
I say, finally, we're seeing law enforcement instead of gross and negligent aiding and abetting. The imbecile who complained at that student, the Hamas advocate, who's the fool that was trying to complain about that, Joe? What was the person's name?
For Maluka, this PH student at Tufts. Which one? The Maluk one?
The girl they just...
Oh,
I
guess the people from the students. I mean, some of the interviews I saw, Tyler, earlier, I look at these and I have to try to decide, are you ignorant of things or are you a stupid person? And I'm going to hope that they're just ignorant, because this is a middle-aged guy who's talking about this girl was kidnapped by our own government. And when a dooful lawful law enforcement agencies as ICE take somebody into custody, they are absolutely acting within the scope of the authority of that office. It's so asinine because we're back to this, Tyler. People on the left seem to want to be able to pick and choose the laws that they want to follow. When they work for them, it's the law. It's constitutional. If they don't like it because it prevents their agenda, then the Constitution becomes an antiquated document. And we've evolved from that. And they just look at it this way. So as far as the question you're asking, I think it's the students that are doing it, and I think the family has raised something. But now we're back and I'm going to get into this topic. We're into judges getting involved with this, right? And we're going to talk about Judge Bosberg in a second, because he got assigned to a new issue, which is like statistically impossible for the same judge to end up with this stuff. So obviously there's some selective judge selection going on, Tyler.
Absolutely. And Joe, just a reminder, I think you said it was an attorney general who never missed the opportunities and jumped into bleeding heart. You have to understand something. You have the freedom of speech. You don't yell fire in the theater. You have the right to bear arms. You don't bring a gun to court. When you support and aid and abet in promoting and advancing the information of Hamas, whose chant is death to America, that fool who drove his truck through New Orleans, finally we have a proactive response. It's not a violation of her rights. It's a violation of our security of peace, which the FBI and the police provide the fabric of the blanket under which we sleep. And they're sick of being backstabbed, undermined, and betrayed by bureaucrats and ridiculous, what you call left-wing nuts that just don't look at reality. And the reality is, this is good that they got her and they got the other guy, because what do you think their agenda is? Do you wait till they incite or actually do a terrorist act, and then they go, positively, not see this coming. Well, we do see it coming, and we're doing something about it. It's called proactive and preventive. You know, an ounce of prevention better than a pound of pain. We used to have this thing called common sense, morals, and ethics. It just seems to have vanished.
Yeah, 100%, Tyler. And thank you for the call. Appreciate it. But again, we didn't need new laws. As Trump said, we just needed a new president. And we needed the administration to say, go do your job. Even Kash Patel, as a new director of the FBI, has reassigned like 1,000 agents out of D.C. and put them out to the field offices and said, go do what you're supposed to do. Be good cops. Go bust the bad guys. Get out of politics. Now, I do want to talk about this. And the FBI has launched a task force, by the way, targeting anti-Tesla domestic terrorism. And this Saturday, the 29th, is supposed to be this anti-Tesla or take down Elon Musk type of day, which if you listen to a national day of something, I mean, it sounds very like the Intifada. It's anti-Tesla day, Intifada Tesla. And this is just crazy, folks. Because let me tell you, and let's talk about something that should be a no-brainer, and that is, but somehow in 2025 we have to spell it out, right? Destroying someone's property because you don't like their car or their political stand is not activism. It is a crime. And yet here we are watching so-called progressives justify outright vandalism against Tesla owners just because they don't like Elon Musk. Now, how they get there? These are, and this is pretty much what I call liberal and liberal crime. Because most people who have a Tesla or have had a Tesla for a while usually tend to be, not always, but right, tend to be a little left. And they bought the Tesla when Elon was an okay guy to them. And Tesla is the leading electronic vehicle maker. And so most Teslas sitting out there, you know, because they're using them to go out to dinner, do the grocery shopping, whatever, probably lean left or Democrats. And now you've got the left extremists and Democrats keying these vehicles and causing damage to them. How does that translate to hurting Elon? Do you understand they already paid for the car? So Tesla, not Elon personally, but Tesla already got the money for making that car. So you don't affect him with money whatsoever. It has nothing to do with him. All you're doing is doing thousands of dollars of damage to a Tesla owner's vehicle, and you're putting it on them, not on Elon, you jamoke. So again, in what is this? How'd they get the marching orders for this? This mass of these leftist activists that they think of themselves seem to get these, I don't know, marching orders, signals or somehow. Just point them in a direction. And they just seem to wait for the next order as what to do. We have to take our mid-show break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN 508-871-7000 and join the conversation back in 2 and 10, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
Meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. Keeping it partly to mostly sunny with highs around 50 this afternoon. It's going to be nice and seasonable. Tomorrow is actually going to be a little warmer, closer to 60 degrees, but we'll get some increase in clouds coming in Friday. Late Friday night into the weekend, we're going to deal with some on and off rain showers. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And After a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
I'm Lee Gaudette from Gaudette Insurance and the Gaudette Insurance Show. You're listening to Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN. And, of course, you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. Text line up and running at 617-297-8388. No new text in on that. Let me just finish my thought on this, that basically, so destroying someone's property because you don't like their car is not activism. That is, in fact, a crime. And now the FBI has to step up, and they're stepping in because this idiocy has gotten so out of hand that we're taking and talking about full-blown domestic terrorism investigation. And that's the key here. So once this is actually deemed domestic terrorism, it does change the rules on both how they can pursue and prosecute and punish. So think about that. What started as some deranged online movement has turned into an organized, coordinated attack on law-abiding citizens and Americans who simply bought now the wrong car. Right? 18 months ago, you were a hero for buying a Tesla because you had this virtue signaling that you are thinking of the economy, the environment, and you're buying an electric car. Now, I've talked about this a zillion times. They're not really green cars because where did the electricity come from? Probably a fossil burning energy plant somewhere. Unless that energy to charge that car is 100% traceable to nuclear or wind and solar, what did you do? You just put a middleman in between the fossil fuel. That
all of the so-called, I think there's 8 of them, charging stations that we paid $300 million
Yeah.
or $300 billion. I'm lost on the numbers. It's just so ridiculous. But every one of the 8 stations is backed up by a diesel generator.
Yeah.
Because there's never enough juice to put 2 or 3 cars on at one time.
And the other part is, because you see this all the time, there are a lot of Tesla owners driving around with the little Honda generator in the trunk. So if they run out of energy, they take it out of the trunk, they start it up with gasoline, and they recharge their Tesla on the side of the road. So look, it's not a true. I've said this for a while. I don't know if it's going to come true. I just think eventually we're going to skip over electric, and hydrogen powered engines will be
Tesla
the
just
future.
released that.
Yeah. So I've been saying that for a long time. And the other thing on the electric cars, folks, because and you don't see the politicians, right? Now they're being almost anti-electric cars here. But you had Kelly, I think he's a senator. He's a congressman, the former astronaut. I think he's a senator. I don't remember what he is. He's a member of Congress. He was an astronaut. Now he got out there and he did the big thing about getting rid of his Tesla. And then what did he get? A big Tahoe. So he always wanted to drive a Tahoe, right? But he did the Tesla back when that was just to signal to his constituents that he's woke like that. So they're not entirely green cars, but
I'm sure there's some McDonald's wrappers stuffed under the seat.
It's just I love Tahoes. One of the vehicles and I've had, as you know, many vehicles over the years. I regret getting rid of the Tahoe I had. It was a fantastic vehicle, but I think I'd rather have a Suburban today. But anyway, this is lawlessness, plain and simple, and it's time to hold people accountable for that. So vandalism is in fact a crime. It's not a political statement. You cross the line. So destroying property is illegal, whether it's a Tesla, a Ford, a bicycle, it doesn't matter. And if you key a car, slash the tires, or damage a business just because you don't like the owner's politics, that's not a protest, folks. It's criminal behavior. Common sense and the constitutions tell us that political disagreements are solved through debate, not destruction. dialogue, folks. This is the same twisted logic that gave us the BLM riots, excusing crime because it's supposedly for a good cause. No, it's not. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Ken has been waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Hello, Joe. At the end of your second segment, you were talking about, are some of these activities of the far left organized? Well, I think everybody heard about the Bernie and AOC rallies last week, right?
Oh, yeah. They think.
Now, did you hear with today's technology, apparently you can ping the cell phones of the people there? And guess what? Over 80% of them have been pinged before. Harris rallies, BLM rallies, all the nonsense that the left is engaged in. These are just professional protests and ralliers, PPRs.
Yeah. Yeah. How do these people have so much free time to attend all these things?
It's simple.
That's a rhetorical question.
Via USAID funding
Mm-hmm.
to NGOs funded by Soros. They're professional of what they do.
And Ken, I think this is part
where they need to.
Right. And I think this is part of the reason that a lot of politicians and some Republican, not just Democrat politicians in general, are panicking with Doge because they never expected anybody to truly follow the money. And I think we're going to find that through USAID and as well as other departments, maybe Health and Human Services or something, these NGOs, right? Whoever came up with the whole concept of NGOs, and I remember talking a couple of years ago, telling you all, watch these NGOs because they're non-government organizations and they get this grant money and they just get, and grants that you don't have to pay back, they just get funding. And they don't have to respond to Freedom of Information Acts. They don't have to have a track record in anything in particular. And they were using them big time. And 4 years ago, when Biden had come in, after he'd come in, I had said then, watch the NGOs. That's what they're using to transfer money to illegals by in way of housing and hotels and debit cards and cell phones and clothing and food and all of that. And I think we're going to find that a lot of tax dollars have been funneled to these NGOs and organizations that, man, look who sits on the board. Look at what happened with Stacey Abrams, right? She creates this in 2023, this group thing. They got $100 donation, probably the $100, to open the checking account, I would think, and then $2 billion on the way, and Biden's out the door. Now, should we have policies of aging on these organizations? They need to exist for 5, 6, 7, 10 years before they can get federal money. I don't know. That's putting a lot of hardship there. But the point is, Ken, I think we're going to find that a lot of tax money has made it into these things, which then made it into either the bank accounts of politicians or politicians' spouses or politicians' kids or that kind of thing. So when it comes to this, Doge, keep doing the thing. Why do they have such a problem with rooting out fraud and corruption is the question.
NGOs are the fifth branch of government.
Oh, I thought it was district judges.
I thought there were only three. Well, you know what the fourth branch is, right?
Well, media. But now we have district judges who really don't have the scope of authority to influence national policy, which is another argument we're going to talk about.
No, media is the fourth estate.
Yeah, that's true.
The bureaucracy, when it just does whatever it feels like, is the fourth branch of government, and the NGOs are the fifth.
Yeah.
And the whole idea behind this is, co-equal branch. No, there's nothing co-equal. That's not that. What they want to do is amass the power in the third, the judicial, the fourth, bureaucracy, and the fifth, the NGOs, so that it has more power than either the first or the second, who we vote for. They want to depower the voters. And all the globalists run everything.
Well, Ken, look at the efforts that have taken place just in the last few years about removing. First of all, you had the movement to make elections federal, right? The Democrats wanted to make it a federal elections opposed to county clerks and city clerks and town clerks running the elections. They just the way they act, right? They feel that they fixed the primary with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Then when Joe Biden was, basically cooed out of office, they did it in such a way there was no primary, there was no fair fight there, and who was going to be the nomination. They basically anointed Kamala Harris, and the same woman that just a matter of weeks and months before they were talking about, can we get her off the ticket for the 2024 run, and that she's horrible and this and that. But once they decided that they got to take that $100 billion in the Biden Kamala's campaign fund and can't lose it out, that we're going to put Kamala forward. And now, just like they get their marching orders for everything else, now Kamala's the best thing, joy and hope, and we're going to love her, and she's the best thing since sliced bread. But of course, the voters said, no, we're not doing that. But they want to dictate who's going to be the next president, and even in the Senate and congressional races, they do it the same way.
So you're telling us 0 to 2 billion didn't work in 14 weeks?
0 to 2 billion didn't work in 14 weeks. You mean for Stacey?
No, I'm saying she raised $2 billion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, see, that's the other thing, right? I mean, look at Donald Trump. Two times he won the presidency, he beat women out. And they both spent at least twice what he did. I think Kamala more than twice, but Hillary certainly twice. And thank God that, money does buy elections. Absolutely. I agree with that statement. But when it's so overwhelmingly clear choice and common sense, I'm glad no amount of money was going to do this in this case. And between the direct money that the campaign raised, which was like $1 billion, and then the other $1 billion in the other PACs and so forth. Absolutely. No, it didn't work. We dodged such a bullet, Ken. Such a bullet.
No. Trump dodged the bullet.
Yeah, literally on that.
We did figuratively.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, final thought before I have to let you go.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear what you had to say about Pocket Rocket Crockett.
Yes.
Jasmine Crockett.
Yeah, Jasmine Crockett. I'm gonna get into her before the end of the show as well, because she went first to Houston, right, with the state legislature, then to Congress, and go look at the videos of her when she's running versus her rhetoric now and how she speaks now. And this bull about the Hot Wheels thing, I'm sorry, your social media have you referencing that and that long before Governor Abbott started with this shipping stuff out. But I'll get into her, Ken. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. All right, folks, we're going to take a third and final break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Dan, hold on the line. We'll go to the phones on the other side. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own, but MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Reminding folks you can always watch the show, listen and watch on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show, X, Facebook, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and of course, Rumble, the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Rumble. And the show is turned into a podcast, which you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or what have you. And to follow up on Ken's question at the end of last segment about Jasmine Crockett and her dangerous rhetoric. So, look, she's a sitting U.S. Congresswoman, literally said Elon Musk should be taken down. Oh, but don't worry, it's not about violence, right? Really? What is that about, Jasmine? Elected officials have a duty to uphold law and order, not encourage destruction. Apparently, it's her birthday Saturday. So she's saying, all I want for my birthday. Well, what does that mean? Take them down physically? I don't know what you mean, lady. But Pam Bondi, she spoke up on this. She was right. Crockett needs to watch her words because calling for the takedown of a private citizen is a dangerous thing to do. And Tesla takedown movement is organized lawlessness. This is not some random one-off incident. This is an organized movement encouraging people to attack Tesla owners, dealerships, cars. They're telling people to sell their Teslas, vandalize them, and even divest from Tesla stock. And then we have people out there who are doxing, and that's the term when you put the personal information, the home address, the personal email and phone number and stuff to somebody, right? And there's an organization out there who's doing the research, getting the information of Tesla owners, putting their personal information online, and then telling these owners they will remove it once they prove to them that they've sold their Tesla. That's extortion. That's a whole nother line of crimes. And this attorney general go after them. Since we do allow, since we don't allow mob rule here to dictate which private businesses succeed or fail, we've got to address this. And if this was happening to a company owned by a Democratic donor, there would be nonstop media outrage over this because it's Musk. It's ignored or even encouraged in some cases. So Trump is right. Punish these criminals severely. These vandals should face up to 20 years in prison. This has been deemed, especially on the dealerships and so forth, that's domestic terrorism. If you finance or participate in coordinated, politically motivated violence, you should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, no? And why should Tesla owners fear their safety just because of their choice of car, which, again, a short time ago, they were applauded for that choice? And I'm worried about the mom with 2 or 3 kids in the car. And I said this when they started with the Molotov cocktails. This is going to end in tragedy. Well, I don't know if it will end with it, but it's certainly going to happen where some of these deranged people are going to do something to a Tesla when there's a person in it. And God forbid it's a child in there. So why should people who own Teslas be subjected to this? You don't like Elon Musk? Fine. He probably isn't too fond of you either. So don't buy his car. Don't use Twitter. That's the irony. Sometimes they use Twitter to organize this stuff. But you don't get to destroy private property because you disagree politically. This is the America the left wants, where your car, your business, your property is fair game if you support the wrong people. We have seen this before. Violence against Trump supporters, conservative speakers attacked on campuses, businesses, boycotted for political beliefs. Enough is enough. Law and order must be restored. If the left is serious about domestic terrorism, let's see them take this as seriously as they took January 6th. I'll tell you right now, if someone tries to key my car, then look, they're going to go to jail. We'll say that. They're going to go to jail. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Dan has been waiting patiently. Hey, Dan, what say you?
We shouldn't be surprised, though. We got George Soros funding these Marxist, socialist, communist Democrats. And the thing here is, I'm waiting for, it'd be nice. I mean, President Trump will probably eventually try to do it. I wouldn't be surprised. But we gotta stop this guy from, Russia and Hungary and some other countries that have banned this guy and his money from the corruption. And, it's terrible, and these corrupt judges, and corrupt politicians and the uniparty, they're all, in the media, they're all attacking Trump on, he's good. He's, and what's so disturbing is some of these conservative talk shows. Well, this is one of the best shows. This is the best show in Massachusetts by far. You guys are the best. But I'm going to tell you.
Thank you. That was very nice. Appreciate that.
No, I truly mean that. I call into a lot of radio stations around the country, and you guys got Trump's back. But some of these talk show hosts, they don't have Trump's back. They go harder at Trump than they go. Take for instance this whole thing with the signal. Okay, they're not talking about how every time you try to bring up on their show some of these people how Jeff Bezos' wife, I forget her name. I'm not thinking of it.
Mrs. Bezos.
Anyway.
Yeah, Mrs. Bezos.
Yeah. So thank you. So the thing here is Jeff Bezos' wife owns the Atlantic, and she's a big donor to ActBlue. And the minute you want to start talking about ActBlue, they're protecting ActBlue. Yet they claim that they're the liberals' biggest nightmare. I mean, if you're the liberals' biggest nightmare, why are you afraid to talk about ActBlue? Okay,
yeah.
Is it because Karl Rove and David Axelrod got ties together doing speaking engagements? And you're big friends with Ari Fleischer? Excuse me, I meant Ari Fleischer and David Axelrod. So what's going on here? What are you America first? If you're an America, are you just when you're running on working in campaigns?
But Dan, I'm thinking for a second. Just as I think it's Steve Jobs' old wife that owns the Atlantic, isn't it? Not, and it's Sanchez is the woman who Bezos. I don't know, is his wife or girlfriend? Sanchez, Lauren, or something like that. Sanchez, but the Atlantic, I believe, is Laureen Powell Jobs, Steve Jobs' ex-wife. She owns that, and she's very, very left.
Yeah.
And then Sanchez is Bezos' squeeze there. So but anyway, your point is your point's still taken, and that's a good point about Soros. It was, by the way, someone texted in. Let's see, 873. It was $8 billion for the charging station. $8 billion. So basically $1 billion a charging station, guys. And here's the thing, and sorry to get off on this, Dan, but on that point is electric cars, even the electric cars that we do have, they don't have the infrastructure that the Tesla charging stations have. That's the other part of it, right? The infrastructure that goes with this. But I digress. Back to your point, Dan. Yeah, Soros through his groups and nonprofits and so forth are funneling all kinds of money, right? Including the races for DAs across the country, which is how we end up with these DAs who take an oath when they get sworn in and then, promptly ignore their oath. But finish your thought, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and you can't cherry pick we know all the Marxist, socialist, communist Democrats are no good. We know this for a fact. Okay, but when it comes to uniparty Republicans, you can't cherry pick. You just can't. You can't be against Mitch McConnell Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney, and Lindsey Graham, and not pick on Ron DeSantis when they're tied into the same people.
Absolutely. Look, Dan, I agree 100% fair. If you criticize a politician, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on. You should be fair criticism for who they are and what they. And thank you for the compliment. But as far as having Trump's back, I have only in the sense of I agree with a lot of his policies and the common sense behavior that he has. And I've said this before. His superpower, if you will, is and he's reinvented himself. He used to be a liberal New York Democrat, remember that, and he has recentered the Republican Party because he has gone to that common sense, meaty part of the curve, and that's important. I did want to just touch on one more thing. A thought on me here before we have to wrap up the show is the judiciary's power grab. Is it constitutional, folks? Judges are stepping far beyond their constitutional authority, blocking policies that the American people voted for. And overwhelmingly this time around, guys, the founders never intended for unelected judges to act as super legislatures or dictate national policy. Courts should interpret laws, not create them. So how did we end up with one judge in D.C. shutting down presidential policy? Now, necessary accountability, or is it a political stunt here? But some Republicans, mostly the guy leading a lot of this is Rep. Brandon Gill. He went to impeach Judge James Boasberg for blocking Trump's immigration enforcement under the Alien Enemies Act, which, by the way, I mean, that's been used 4 times, 3 of those times by Democratic presidents in the 1900s, in the 20th century, folks. Now, impeachment is a constitutional tool. Is it the right use of it? Well, the reality here is the Senate won't convict, but would a House impeachment send a warning shot to activist judges? The left's hypocrisy on judicial power is overwhelming. Democrats love national injunctions when they are stopping Trump or Trump's policies, but cried foul when they were used against Biden's expansion of abortion pills. And he blatantly ignored the court there. Now they say impeachment is lawless tyranny, but hey, they weren't the ones threatening to pack the Supreme Court when they didn't like the Dobbs decision. Folks, this is going to wrap up the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, the Carr Brothers come your way, so I'll be back on Monday at 1 o'clock. So, hey, have a fantastic weekend, folks, and don't forget, the Joe Mangiacotti Show is turned into a podcast, and you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. All right, folks, have a great weekend. Joe out.